I'll tell you right now, I'm really not using the Steam Deck the way that I used to. And it really comes down to, man, it is hard to believe that I have had this Steam Deck OLED for 7 months. There is still a lot that I absolutely love about my Steam Deck OLED. I love this device. But even though I still think it's the best gaming handheld, get subscribed if you want to see my Rogue Ally X review, which is coming up when that launches, to see if it can dethrone it. But, you know, things have really changed over the past 7 months, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go over what I love, what I don't, and how I have really honestly changed the way that I use this device. Because the way that I'm using it now is so much different than the way that I used it at launch when I got it. But the look and feel of the device still is the best. It is just so ergonomic. I absolutely love this thing. I couldn't be happier with it when it comes to the way that it feels in your hand. Now, right now, I have on the D-brand Kill Switch case. I have a whole review on this case on my channel. I'll put a link in the description. This is a great case. It does make it bulkier, and the Steam Deck was lighter when it went to its OLED version, so I negated a little bit of that, but I just like the premium feel of it. It feels better in my hands, and, you know, it looks cool, right? The green's cool, right? But ultimately, it's just so ergonomic. The way that the thumbsticks feel, and it's so much improved over the LCD deck. Trackpads are so much more tactile. The buttons are clickier. Nothing is mushy. I haven't had any issues with the L1, R1 button like I did in my original Steam Deck. Continues to be an amazing-looking device. Doesn't feel nearly as big as it used to back when we were first getting used to handhelds, when Steam Deck honestly started this market, right? And all of that is still intact. I'm just as in love with the way that this feels to play video games as I always have been. And this OLED screen is so good. It's crisp and sharp. You can see just so bright, brings so much to the table that the LCD deck didn't, including a bigger screen. This is something that's often overlooked, but the screen is bigger on the OLED deck, and I feel that. Game performance continues to be the same. You know, I would say I'm playing Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree right now, and I am playing it locked at 30 frames per second, whereas another game that I play on here, Hades 2, is so well optimized for Steam Deck that it's ridiculous. It plays amazingly well right at that 90 FPS with a 90 refresh rate to match on this thing. And I love that refresh rate. The ability to be able to go up to 90, it may not seem like it's a big deal because so many games are just not optimized for deck. When you've got a game that's optimized, or you have an older game, just one that's not demanding at all on the CPU and GPU, it'll hit that 90 and it will be absolutely fine. You gotta love that. And when it comes to battery life, I have to say I am so impressed with the battery life. I mean, it is basically doubled from the LCD deck. The LCD deck was my favorite way to play games back in the day when I had that, and when I switched to the OLED, I was shocked at how much more battery they were able to push out of this. Even if the performance in general of games is not that much better, you're getting so much better battery and thermals overall in this thing. Overall, I don't think it's any surprise to anyone that I love this device, and it has continued to improve in small ways over time that have really made it the best way to play video games in a handheld format, and reliable. And in some ways, what Steam is doing here is it's creating a very iPhone-like experience. I'll get to more on that in a second, but it has all the good that comes along with that, meaning the operating system is always going to look the same. It's always going to be reliable. It's always going to do the thing that you want it to do when you want it to do it, which is just play games. This is as close to a console in a handheld format as you can get. That's what Steam was going for, and that's what you can do here. And it just delivers. You pick up and play, and that's all there is to it, for the most part. Which is a pretty good transition into what I'm not loving. And it's interesting because my gaming habits have changed over the past 7 months. And as that has happened, I've sort of found the flaws of the Steam Deck more coming to the fore. Specifically, I think the biggest one for me is that it just sort of feels restrictive. Now, I know that Valve is very cool about you going inside and breaking everything up. You go into desktop mode, you're in Linux, and you can mess around with whatever you want to mess with, and that's fine. But ultimately, you're not going to play games in desktop mode. Trust me, I have tried it and done performance tests. It is horrendously sluggish compared to game mode, so you're just not going to play games there. So you're living in the more console-like game mode, and that's where things get really restrictive, especially when you talk about other launchers, because ultimately, and Valve says this all the time, this is a PC. But it's a PC that you really can only do a limited number of things with for an average user. For example, I'll be honest, I'm really into Diablo 4 lately. I love the new season, and I've been playing a ton of it. I am so frustrated trying to play this thing on my deck because what do? I go to my hacked version of GeForce Now that I've loaded up through here following some tutorials of using a web browser integration, and then I load it up. But I'll tell you, there's been plenty of times when I've just wanted to play a little bit of Diablo 4 in bed. I gotta admit, this is kind of my cozy game, Diablo 4. Just turn off your brain and just kill stuff. Some people play Animal Crossing. I play Diablo 4. But GeForce Now, you just never know what you're going to get. I have very fast internet here, but the Wi-Fi connection sometimes isn't what it should be. The connection to GeForce Now isn't always what it should be. All the cloud gaming traps are still there, and ultimately I can't really play it on here. Now, can you play Diablo 4 through the Battle.net launcher natively? I think so. It's really hard to set up, and then to actually get it working is another thing. I'm pretty tech savvy. I have a gaming tech YouTube channel, and I find it all just way too much of a headache to deal with. I just want the experience, because when I'm on my computer or my laptop, just boot up Battle.net and go for it. Yes, other launchers are annoying. We would love everything to be on Steam, but it's not. And as a PC gamer, that's just something that we live with, accept, and sort of lean into. But forget about doing it here. The same thing happened with things like playing Alan Wake 2 back in the fall. One of my favorite games of last year. I had to play it on GeForce Now. You know, it's spotty sometimes. Mostly good. I like GeForce Now. It's another subscription, but I mostly like it. But, you know, not amazing. And getting the Epic Games Store to launch is a pain in the butt. Yes, I've tried Heroic Games Launcher. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Yes, I've tried other solutions that allow you to put the launchers directly in game mode. Unreliable, difficult to set up. It's still mostly up to developers to further optimize this experience, which really takes agency out of the player's hands to be able to play games on deck. Again, that's fine because we're used to that as PC gamers. But if we're going to be committed to Steam Deck as being a place where we play at least half of our PC game time, and I think a lot of us, especially us dads out there, do that a lot, we're limited. And ultimately, it's a similar experience to why I switched from iPhone to Android. I wanted a less limiting experience. I felt like iOS had not changed in a decade. It was the same basic home screen and layout that we've been looking at since the first iPhone, essentially, with little tiny features added here and there over time. Same thing with SteamOS. It's not doing anything different now than it did a few years ago when it launched. It does that thing well, but the restrictions are still there. This is one of the main reasons why I'm really excited to get my hands on the ROG Ally X and review that in July, because that will be my first Windows gaming handheld, and I can't wait to see if I feel more free in that experience than I do here with my Steam Deck. I'm just using this a lot less because I just feel the drawbacks of this device more lately. I still love the device, don't get me wrong, and I still think it's an incredible handheld. And as a dad gamer who can't be chained to my gaming PC all day and all night long, with my family in the living room, we're doing our own things, right? The Steam Deck fills that niche. It does make me wonder how far we are away from handhelds competing with gaming laptops on performance. I know it seems ridiculous now, but once we figure out how to get these things small enough and we get the cooling on point, maybe there's a time when these things start getting a little bit closer. I just wanted to give my honest experience after 7 months of using it and how my perspective on it and behavior as a gamer has shifted over time. If you like gaming tech stuff, reviews, impressions, opinions, all that good jazz, get liked and subscribed. I'd love to have you as part of the community. We talk about this stuff all the time. And leave a comment down below. How are you feeling about your deck? Do you have the OLED deck? Do you feel that restrictiveness too, or do you feel like I'm totally off base? Let me know in the comments. All right, I'll see y'all in the next video, and don't forget to have fun.